beautiful day. I wanted to talk for a moment on this subject, father and daughter talk. We live in a time where I don't believe, for what I've seen and just from my personal experience, I'm seeing a lot of young ladies, um, especially I believe the age, you know, between 5 to about 15, that I'm noticing that there's a lack of training on a dad's perspective. And what I mean is there's no pouring into the daughters. I've noticed that we are known as men, as fathers, to be great providers, but we are not known to spend the time, the quality time with our daughters, or and so forth. And so I'm seeing that, and I have noticed that quite often, not just my local area, but more so on a broad perspective. And then you got that age from 15 to about 25. I feel like those years are very tender, in particular because that young lady is coming into womanhood. And so from that age about 5 to 15, there's a lot of training. And then you have from that age 15 to 25, there's coaching, there's developing, right? So from a father perspective, I think is one of the things what I have tried to accomplish in this short period of time of raising a soon to be 11-year-old daughter. I've learned so much from her. But what I take from our relationship, it goes back to the common denominator, is time. I don't want to be a father who focus on providing and showing my daughter that part or that element of a relationship, in which I think is good that a man can provide for his kids. I don't feel like a man should get any brownie points for taking care of his responsibilities. I feel that comes with the nature of being a father. And so when I see there's a lack of development when it comes to the father pouring into his daughter, it ultimately affects our society, our world, because we don't teach the young lady what healthiness looks like from a man's perspective. I'm going to be honest with you. I date my daughter. And what I mean by date my daughter, I take her on dates. I make sure I accommodate her. I make sure I respect her. I make sure I have proper tone with her. I make sure that she has an environment that is safe, right? And so she doesn't have to go get that from someone else. She gets that from at home because I'm a father that lives in the home. Me and her mother are married, going on almost 2 decades, and she have seen us, our ups and our downs, and so she's been able to judge us or to be able to see us in many different fashions. But most importantly, she has seen consistency. And so we as fathers have to teach our daughters the importance of what healthiness looks like. We have to make sure when we're raising our daughters, they just don't be so intrigued with what a man is saying within what he's saying to her. He is astonishing her mindset due to she should have been hearing that at home. She should have been validated at home. She should have been reinsured at home. And so we're seeing that so often with a lot of women who are lacking the father role. You can tell when a young lady doesn't have a father that is hands-on. Is as a man that understands life and have experienced life and have been able to travel throughout my whole journey of life, I've been able to spot women who are weak when it comes to men. weak minded in the sense of they believe any and everything. Why is that so important? Because it is important that a father pours into his daughter, not to teach her the language of a man, but to give her a confidence and a knowing that will allow her to maneuver through life. And when she's not able to maneuver through life because maybe she's weak minded or maybe she's so gullible on the words that comes out of every man's mouth, that is an issue. And so I encourage fathers to make sure that you just don't provide for your daughter or your kids, but make sure that you spend the time, make your kids a priority in your life. It will pay off in the future. And like I stated earlier, I am unapologetic about my relationship with my daughter. I make sure that I can not just make time for her, I study to understand what she's in need of. And I make sure as a father that she understands not just what healthiness looks like, but make sure that she understands what a man is looking for out of a woman. And how is that possible? The reason why she can see her father is based on how I treat her mother. So she's watching me. She's taking mental notes. And she's able to see a family or a marriage that is healthy, that is whole, that is full of the Holy Ghost. And she's able to navigate to say, you know what? I see healthiness. I see what true love looks like, the ups, the downs, the long patience, the longevity. This is what my daughter is able to evaluate. And on top of that, I'm able to be very transparent with my daughter for her to understand what is it like for a man to be frustrated with her mother and how he should conduct himself in a manner that can still be firm, but yet his point is across. And also a father that's don't have a problem going back asking for forgiveness if he have done something, meaning that his tone has went up or meaning that he didn't make the right decision in that particular moment. A father has to be able to be flexible. A father and the daughter conversation, it needs to be on a regular basis. He needs to, as a father, needs to be checking in. Hey, how you doing, daughter? Are you okay? What is it? What's going on in your life? What are you struggling with? Are you having, let's for example, if she is insecure because of her weight, the father should be able to have that conversation with his daughter because he understands that a weight on a woman, if she's overweight, that can play into her confidence, that can play into insecurities, that can play into low self-esteem. And then when a young lady is struggling with her insecurities or struggling with her self-esteem, she needs somebody who can validate her, not to manipulate her or not to take advantage of her. And it starts with a father teaching his daughter those little ingredients that will help sustain her throughout her life journey. And so when we have father and daughter talk, it is so imperative to make sure that you are checking in, making sure that you are studying your daughter, making sure that you can accommodate your daughter, and making sure that at the end of the day that you can serve her at the highest level. I have to, as a father, take my daughter out on dates, take her to dinner, making sure I take her to go get her nails done or get her hair done, and making sure I spoil her. Because when she get with Johnny come lately, if she decides to date this gentleman or be in a relationship with this guy, she know what it's like to have a man who already are doing those things. So she's not impressed with his money. She's not impressed with his material things. She's not impressed because he has the nice Gucci and the Louis Vuittons of this world. She say, that's cool. I've been seeing that. And that's not, I'm not intrigued with that. What I'm intrigued with, if a man is dating my daughter, what is your relationship like with the Lord Jesus Christ? What is your relationship like with your mother or your father? If you have those in your life, what is that dynamic like? And so my daughter would know how to answer ask the proper questions when necessary. And so we have to make sure as fathers that we teach and we be consistent in our kids' life, in our daughter's life. We're in such a need as a country, as a world, to raise healthy and whole women that who are strong minded, who can be comfortable, stand in their femininity energy, stand in their energy as a woman. They're able to dwell, they're able to be comfortable, they're able to know themselves. They don't have to try to go borrow a man's energy because they don't have any what's the word, emotional intelligence, or they don't know how to conflict of resolution. They know how to stand still within their femininity. And I believe it's important to have my wife teaching my daughter that, but it's also important that a father like myself tell his daughter, say, hey, you might not want to use that tone because that could come off a little aggressive. Who is training our daughters nowadays? We cannot allow social media. We cannot let anything that has to do with TV raise our kids and giving our kids this false narrative of this is how a woman should carry herself. This is how a woman should represent herself. We don't need to raise promiscuous type of daughters. We have enough of those already. And we have to help those who didn't get the training to help them understand the importance of womanhood. And then I think this is the key to it. The key is if a young lady, a daughter we're talking about, if she gets a healthy father or a father figure in her life, she's able to look at life not just from a woman's perspective. She's able to see it from a man's perspective because that man has taught her and has trained her. This is how you should look at this. And this is what healthiness looks like. And if you don't recognize this healthiness, you might want to reserve yourself in conversation. You might want to be careful with your time and who you're investing your time in, who you're investing your time with. I think sometimes when we look at our society and we send young 13-year-olds teenage dating, we're seeing young 15-year-olds, whatever the age may be, that teen bracket. Why is these girls are so intrigued with having intimacy or having sex? Why is that such a priority to those young women? And the reason why I believe that we're dealing with that is because there's a lack of training. See, people, especially at that age, you have to understand that the mind itself haven't fully developed. And so as a father, it is important that you help develop that mind. It's important that you give her the training. We dealt with Proverbs 22, I believe, verse 6. I'm going to get that really quick. Proverbs 22 and verse 6. It talks about how, as parents, it is important that we train our child. It's important that our kids understand what it's like to be up under healthiness. Proverbs 22 and 6. Train up a child in the way it should go, and he is old, he will not depart from it. There's a training that has a lifetime benefit. And so, if the daughter is not receiving the training, or if she's in a relationship where her mother and her are like best friends, and she's looking at her mom as a friend and not a mother, or that's the conflict of interest, first and foremost. Secondly, if the father is in the home and he doesn't have a standard that he's trying to uphold when it comes to the daughter having a reverence, a respect, and a lifestyle that she should be living based on the training, that is a problem. Because if she's getting her training from people that you don't who don't at the end of the day on social media or on TV they're watching, they're just entertaining. And so if our kids start immersing themselves into that lifestyle, what are we actually producing? Are we actually training our daughters? You know, I see so many young girls who are promiscuous, you know, and I'm looking like, whoa, wait a second. You only how old? These young girls are finding men even my at my age. I find that disgusting. Why is it that this young girl who haven't even fully developed mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and she's finding men attractive at my age? That is a problem. Who is she hanging around with? What is her surroundings? What is her surroundings looking like? And that's the issue. We have to have father and daughter talk because we need to make sure we teach our daughters that that is not normal. And what man at 40 or at 35 or at 30 years old, even at 25, even at whatever age, what is he finding a 15-year-old attractive? Why is that? That's sick. That is sick behavior. And so we're living in an hour to where we have to check in. We got to be consistent as fathers. We have to make sure when we are having these conversations that there's no judgment and we can create a safe place for our daughters to be able to talk, to be able to express, to be able to really show you or tell you what's really going on in their mental capacity or even going on in their world. And I think if we can do that, start off with the conversation, build a relationship, build a trust, build a transparency. I believe that we have an opportunity to have a reach to where we could create a generation of young women that will be responsible, that will value themselves at the highest level. I believe we can do that. I believe that if we can focus on conversation with our daughters, spending the time with our daughters, dating our daughters to where we take them on dates, make them a priority, and let them understand this is what it looks like and this is what you should be attracting healthiness. A man that is whole, a man that is sure of himself, a man that has integrity, a man that has high character in his behavior, in his mindset, a man that has discipline, a man that has consistency. I'm just naming a few. I could keep going on and going on and going on, but I just want to stop right there because I think it's important as a father. Like I stated earlier, my daughter's turning 11 years old here very soon. It has allowed me to reflect on becoming a better version of myself for my not just for my kids, but also for my daughter in particular, because I know she needs me like never before. I believe we live in an hour to where we feel like our kids don't need us anymore when they turn 18. That's how I was taught from the South when I grew up. And so now I understand that that is such a false illusion, seriously. Our kids need us even more as they approach life in their later years. But in their tender years, when we look at the age from 5 to 15, I believe there's such a training that needs to be necessary. And then from that age 15 to about 25, there's a lot of coaching. There's a lot of things that you've taught from the 5 to 15 that now they're starting to implement as they develop into womanhood. I will have my wife have a conversation. I'm going to be having her join us on some of these episodes. I didn't think, with all of these episodes that I'll be on this family conversations. But again, I only give you what the Lord has put in my heart, and so I want to make sure that we are having those conversations so we can have healthy families. You guys know I'm really big about the crisis, the marriage crisis that we're dealing with in our world. And I believe that we can change the narrative, we can change the concepts and the mindsets of how people are looking at marriage by simply creating healthy relationships, healthy marriages, healthy families, healthy young people to be able to create healthy economy. I truly believe that. And I believe the way we do it is by having these real conversations. Again, guys, I want you to do me a solid favor. I want you to go share this contact because I know you know somebody that knows somebody, right? And then I want you to subscribe for me if you don't mind. And then I want you to comment for me if you don't mind. But the first thing, go share this conversation that we're having. Because I know you know somebody that knows somebody. And then you tell somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. Then I want you to go do that. And then I want you to go share this content. And then I want you to go share. I said it a million times. You get my message, right? But nevertheless, um, I love you guys. I thank you for continue supporting this channel as we are approaching 100. The goal will be by the end of February, we will have 100 subscribers. And so help me get there. And I can't get there without you guys helping me get there. So I appreciate if you could share this content and comment if you don't mind as well. And I appreciate all the support. And I'm going to see you on the other side. In Jesus' name.